Why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBL, the Orchard Lake, and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines across the Great Lakes State today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story comes from Clara Hendrickson at the Detroit Free Press. With increased scrutiny of elections, far increased absentee voting, and signature processes and accuracy of counting every single vote, you, the electorate, may have to wait a little bit longer this election season for the unofficial results to come through your TV screens, your computers, and of course, the official outlets such as your local clerk's office. The Michigan Secretary of State's office said that this year's election's results should be expected within 24 hours of the polls closing on election day on November 8th, which of course closes at 8 p.m. The main culprit, absentee voting. While convenient and certainly something many Michiganders have taken the opportunity to engage in their civic duty of voting with since its no reason inception following the 2018 midterms, they also require certain processes of their own, including not being able to be processed other than in a certain period of time before election day in certain communities with certain population numbers, as well as not being able to be counted and put through the actual tabulators until the day of the election, beginning at 7 a.m. on election day and running, of course, through 8 p.m. as they are collected. So if they're in by 8 p.m., they can be counted on election day, which certainly affects the speed that these votes can go through, especially as we're seeing a significant increase in many communities, as we reported last week, some especially in many northern Michigan, typically Republican communities, as well as some slight increases in highly Democratic areas such as the city of Detroit. That means it's a little bit slower of a process. What that means for you, slower returns on election results on election night, but not a suffering at all of accuracy. Clerk's offices will continue to utilize their regular processes as is regulated and is required by both the county, the state, and the federal government. So slower results, but the same accuracy, because on the other side, the only other solution would, of course, be to speed up that process, which, of course, the greater speed you go with, the less accurate you're probably going to end up being as people rush through these processes, despite the great training that these election workers and certainly these clerks' offices go through as they're tabulating all of these votes from across the Great Lakes State. So it's a sacrifice we make for greater opportunity to vote with no reason, absentee voting, which was the will of the people in 2018. That being said, still expect your election results, at least as of now, according to the Secretary of State's office, by 8 p.m. on Wednesday, November 9th. And again, unofficial results are defined by, that's just what is basically off of the initial results coming in from municipality by municipality, county by county to the state government. It's not until the results are then certified by the county and by the state before they become official results. Typically, though, however, only in some very rare cases have the official results been at all different from the unofficial results, and certainly very, very rare that they've been significantly different than those unofficial results, but expect those results to come in just a little bit later this year. So some patience going to be required from us in the electorate this particular election cycle. Also making headlines today from the Detroit News and their team, Michigan State University is expected to name its interim president this afternoon. The Board of Trustees has called a special meeting for 12 noon today to find the immediate interim successor to their current president, Dr. Samuel Stanley, who submitted his resignation on October 13th. Stanley, of course, resigned due to his lost confidence and trust in the university's Board of Trustees, a sentiment that was also met before his resignation by the Faculty Senate of Michigan State, and then after his resignation, or right before his resignation, actually, by the Associated Students of MSU, or ASMSU. A live stream of the meeting will be available on the Board of Trustees website, so you can see the proceedings in full, as well as whom they name the interim president of Michigan State University. That can be found on MSU's website at trustees.msu.edu. Trustees.msu.edu. Finally, making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Matt Wenzel at MLive. Following a scuffle in the Michigan Stadium tunnel after Saturday's blowout loss to the University of Michigan, 4 Michigan State students have been suspended from the football team for their participation in a several-on-one beatdown of a Michigan player. In a statement released last night, head coach Mel Tucker said, quote, Michigan State University football core values include integrity, discipline, unselfishness, toughness, and accountability. After reviewing the disturbing electronic evidence collected to date of the altercations between Michigan State and the University of Michigan student athletes on October 29th, 2022, we are suspending Tank Brown, Kari Crump, Angelo Gross, and Zion Young effective immediately. We are currently working with law enforcement, Michigan State, and Michigan campus leadership and the Big Ten Conference to further evaluate the events in Ann Arbor, including but not limited to additional student-athlete participation in the altercations and contributing factors. The initial student-athlete suspensions will remain in place until these investigations are completed. The health and safety of our student athletes, coaches, personnel, and the Spartan community remain our priority. You have my promise that we are committed to fairness, transparency, and accountability, and that we will continue to take appropriate action in this matter. Our core values and the responsibility that comes with wearing the state green and white jersey must never be compromised. Thank you to our athletics department, football staff, alumni, partners, the community, and the fans for your continued collaboration and support as we move forward together, and close quote. I'll have more on this as well as many of the storylines and results from Saturday near the bottom of the hour today at about 10:25 as we continue on the Megacast. Lots to say on what happened at Michigan Stadium on Saturday as the University of Michigan, now home to the Paul Bunyan Trophy for at least a year. He's taking a vacation, let's just call it, from this Spartan alum. All these headlines today on our website, CivicCenterTV.com/local-news, along with links to COVID-19 updates from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on this Monday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk Michigan tourism and travel with Pure Michigan's Kelly Wolgamott. The fall season coming near its end. Still plenty of fun left to be had, but now it's time to look toward winter and even towards spring and make your plans early and in advance. We'll explore some of the great things you can do in Michigan next after this break. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations across the Great Lakes State, including My Michigan TV, and find our full shows and each individual interview on demand. civiccentertv.com/megacast, the website for all of that information. Joining us now is Kelly Wolgamott, the Director of Travel Marketing with Pure Michigan, on today's edition of the Megacast. As we continue to be in a great time of the year for traveling in Michigan, the weather continues to be beautiful, albeit a little bit of rain on this particular Monday. But other than that, it's been an excellent fall, Kelly, and it only continues as we get past the Halloween season tonight and head full on into the holidays and the end of fall. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good. Hello. Welcome. I'm glad to be here. And, there is never a bad time to travel in Michigan, as I say, because there's so many things to see, do, and experience. And as we move into the holiday season, it's, I think, a good reminder to talk about supporting local. The small businesses in Michigan still need our support. It's absolutely critical. And there's so many, opportunities to shop, eat, and stay local this holiday season. And, also kind of think about the gift of travel as we get closer to the holiday season. We all have a lot of things and, there's no better gift than travel.
Yeah, it's really interesting that as we get toward the holidays, particularly Thanksgiving, you think about Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, is also coming up, and many of our local communities are really hoping that people will go back out there this holiday season as they go in person for shopping, certainly shopping on days like Black Friday, and hopefully, even more importantly, Small Business Saturday, get back out in those local communities. And I love what's happening in Oakland County. That's, of course, where we originate our broadcast, although we broadcast throughout the whole state. Oakland County is really making an effort on that, and they're doing what they're calling their Shop Small local gems sweepstake. You go to oakgov.com/shop small. What they're asking you to do is fill out an entry form, submit some selfies of you patronizing local businesses, going in there and going to your local shops, your local restaurants, and entering some selfies. And you have a chance to win. First prize $1,000, second prize $500, and that runs through Small Business Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on November 26th. And this is just one of those examples of really putting an effort forward to support these small businesses, especially now that we're kind of back out from the thick of the pandemic and even some of that in-between zone we were in 2021. What is that state right now of these small businesses? Have they been able to really see a nice recovery, or do they need even additional support to really bridge those gaps that were certainly widened during the pandemic?
Yeah, they still need our support. The shops, the restaurants, as well as the hotels and bed and breakfasts around the state. The travel industry was one of the hardest hit industries during the pandemic, and they're still recovering, not only from the need to get people in there to shop, but also if you're looking for a job, the tourism industry also has a lot of available jobs, and it's such a fun industry to be a part of and opportunities for growth. We have so many vibrant downtowns that are filled with local shops and, decor, fashion, pet toys, beer, wine, and spirits, independent bookstores, coffee shops, and, not to mention all of the dynamic restaurants and lodging opportunities that we have throughout the state. And we, as you have up there on the screen, we have a great resource on michigan.org, our support local page, which can provide ideas for, Michigan residents as to where to shop in their community, what to see. We also have featured events because, there's not only, what you can experience from the shopping and the dining and the lodging within those communities, there's also a lot of excellent holiday events coming up in our communities for the holidays.
Yeah, let's go into that too, because when I think about the holiday season and those sort of hallmark celebrations of whether it be the Thanksgiving holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and the New Year, and all of that in December. There are so many great celebrations and festivals in cities large and small throughout the state of Michigan. I mean, I think about certainly the city of Detroit and the celebrations they do around the December holidays. Same thing with Lansing as they're lighting up the Capitol and putting up the tree and the red balls and the lighting in the state capitol too. And when you see those kinds of events, you also think about the smaller cities too that hold their holiday festivals and so on. What are some of your favorite smaller places to go, kind of more quaint but special events that you enjoy in the holiday season all across the state?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Detroit and Lansing have some really dynamic events coming up. And if you haven't been down to the new skating rink in Detroit, it's just amazing. But also there's a lot of holiday markets, and I'm really looking forward to visiting Frankenmuth as well as Holland, Michigan. Those holiday markets start in November and do go into December. But really, great shopping ideas for the holidays, and just, again, really great communities while you're there to visit one of the restaurants. And, there's also a lot of light festivals around the state as well. And parades with, Thanksgiving parade right there in downtown Detroit, which is broadcast nationally. So a lot of fun events. We have all of these featured events on Michigan.org for you to kind of explore and to see what you want to do this holiday season.
More information, of course, can be found on Michigan.org. It's where your trip begins for all things Michigan, all across all 4 seasons of the year as we continue through the fall. Plenty of fun left to be had this fall season as we surpass Halloween this evening and move on to right about the holiday season and then into the holiday season also. But that also brings up looking forward to the rest of the year. As we said, there's 4 seasons here in Michigan. There's always something fun to do and always some fun to be had all across the Great Lakes state. So as we're looking forward to the winter season, and even it's a good time to start thinking about those spring break trips here in Michigan also. What steps should people be taking right now to get themselves ready for some of those trips coming up that they'll plan on taking this winter season, enjoy some of the snowy and outdoor fun in Michigan, and certainly into the spring as they explore Michigan opening back up before the warmer seasons?
You're absolutely right. And, staycation, right? With the rising costs, it's a great opportunity to start thinking about those holidays coming up. If your kids have a holiday break, all of these opportunities are great for all ages around the state. And as we talk about the gift to travel, right? We have a lot of things. Why not give, your family, your partner, the gift to travel this holiday season? So let's just look at some of those upcoming events. We have the UP 200, which is the dog sled race in Marquette. If you have never been to that, wow, what a great event. I went for the first time last year. It's been on my list for a while. The whole town rallies downtown, and the dogs are just absolutely excited to be there and to get going on the racing. The UP also has another international event. It's the I-500 snowmobile race. Really fun opportunity to get together. But, the ski resorts across the state, and I always say this because I'm not an active downhill skier, it's still fun to go to the resorts if you don't like to downhill ski. Maybe your kids will downhill ski, but there's also snowshoeing, there's tubing, there's, the campfires that you can sit around and, have a bite to eat or drink, and just a really good experience. And not to mention what the resorts have when it comes to wellness and the spa packages as well. So there's so many great ideas on Michigan.org to provide, when you're thinking about those upcoming staycations or just that gift of travel for the holiday season.
Again, more information can be found on Michigan.org, Michigan.org, for all the travel information you need. And let's talk about the resources too that are there, because we always talk to you and Dave Lorenz or Odie McKinley or other people from Michigan Economic Development Corporation or Pure Michigan or travel experts across the state. And every one of them prompts us to go to Michigan.org. Your trip begins at Michigan.org. But there's so much information there. What kind of information and resources are provided for people to learn more about our state and, maybe figure out some of those travel plans? Because like we always talk about, there is so much to do in every region of the state.
Yeah, we are blessed with what we can see, do, and experience in Michigan. if you go to the navigation right on the homepage on Michigan.org, we kind of break it out, and hopefully, some of these categories will resonate with people visiting the site, from experiences, family fun by the shore, or if you want to go to a city adventure based on attractions and activities, if you want to go to farm and cider mills, trails, museums, restaurants, support local. There's a whole big section on events. Stay and plan when it comes to accommodations. There's also, not to mention, our Pure Michigan travel guide on there, which is an amazing resource as well, to provide you just some really great travel ideas and trying to, get out of the mold of what you may do all the time in Michigan and try to find some of those hidden gems that you want to experience. There's also deals and packages, right? Who isn't looking for a deal right now? And there's some great deals around the state. And we update that monthly. And there's actually a deals newsletter that is free of charge. You can enroll into that e-newsletter and get it sent to your inbox every month. But, there's a lot of great deals and packages also out there, which is really a great resource.
Again, more information, all these different resources, including lists for all different seasons and seasonal guides, guides to all the different major cities in the state and major areas of the state, major activities can all be found. A number of great resources at Michigan.org. We're joined by Kelly Wolgamont, the Director of Travel Marketing for Pure Michigan, on today's edition of the Megacast. Kelly, before we let you go, another couple of minutes, anything else that we should know about the resources provided for Michigan travel and information at Michigan.org, or other things you're looking forward to in this fall season and as we emerge into the holidays and the winter?
Yeah, so, when you go to the homepage again on Michigan.org, it does, provide it out by season as well, if people want to look at, seasonal opportunities. But also there's a great trip ideas tab right on the navigation under events that does provide you more details, and it is seasonal, so we try to keep it relevant to you when you're coming there. In fall and looking at winter as well, there's one-tank trips and some detailed itineraries as well to provide individuals with that opportunity. And, I'm just really excited about, looking forward to the holiday season and winter, and to get outdoors and enjoy the beauty in Michigan, but also enjoying the cities, because our cities are so unique. And I find every time I go to a city in Michigan, the personalities are so different, and there's so many great entrepreneurs in our cities and so many great things, as far as shopping and dining experiences. It is a really fun opportunity, and I just looking forward to getting back out there this holiday season.
Again, more information can be found on Michigan.org. Well, Kelly, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Again, your trip begins at Michigan.org to learn more information about what's coming up throughout the rest of the fall season. If you're looking for some Halloween activities tonight, another great place to go, as well as more information for exploration across the state during the holiday season. We'll take a break. On the other side, my Michigan State Spartans took a beating over the weekend and then gave a beating of their own, embarrassingly, in the tunnel after the game. I got plenty to say about both the game on Saturday between the victorious Michigan Wolverines and the not so victorious Michigan State Spartans, as well as the controversy in the tunnel at Michigan Stadium following the game. That's all coming up next. And then at the bottom of the program today, we'll talk all about elections with Oakland County Clerk Lisa Brown. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Of course, you can learn more about our program and keep up to date on all of our shows and each individual interview on demand at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find links to every single one of our partnering TV, radio, and streaming outlets that join us live and live to tape Monday through Friday, our live shows, of course, 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. And if you're not able to join us for our live program, you can always find us there in the afternoons. We post our episodes and our full interviews as well on civiccentertv.com/megacast. Of course, the big story of the weekend was the big game in Ann Arbor between the Michigan Wolverines, the number 4 team in the country, and the Michigan State Spartans. The battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy after Michigan State University the last 2 years taking Paul Bunyan home to East Lansing. Not the case on Saturday, as the University of Michigan outscored Michigan State 16-0 in the second half, following a 13-7 first half to take a 29-7 victory in Ann Arbor. And man, this was an interesting game. It was not the most exciting game. I have referred to this game, and I will continue to refer to this particular game as a snooze fest. Maybe that's because last year's game was a classic. It was back and forth. There was storyline. Both teams were 7-0. Both teams were highly ranked. You had star power all across the field with Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. Kenneth Walker III and Peyton Thorne and Jaden Reed and Jalen Naylor and all these different players and all these different storylines and two teams fighting for position in the Big Ten. And this year, definitely not the case. You have a Michigan team that's looking like they're poised to win another Big Ten championship. It's definitely going to be down to them or Ohio State, and the winner of the Big Ten East. More than likely going to be the winner of the Big Ten, more than likely going to be in the college football playoff. And considering the competition at the top of the ranks in college football this year, Alabama's still there, Clemson's still there, Georgia's still there, Tennessee has emerged this year. But none of those teams are particularly as dominant as they've been in years past. You're not looking at Alabama. That's a team that some will take a hot take on and say they could beat the worst NFL team. They could beat the Lions or something like that. That's not the case this year. Michigan is in prime position to compete not just for the Big Ten championship, but for the national championship. And they look like a team that's ready to win a national championship, as we've seen over the last few weeks. There's arguments that, sure, their early season schedule was against a bunch of cupcakes. They played 3 teams that were in the bottom 5 teams in the entire Division I of college football to kick off the season. But they showed their might last week against Penn State, a top 10 team, an exceptional defense, a team that, at least in the first half, challenged Ohio State over the past weekend. They took care of business in a tough game, in a rivalry game at home, and did exactly what they were supposed to do: beat Michigan State by a sizable margin and kick this team while they're down. A 3-4 team coming in goes out 3-5. You come in 7-0 and go out 8-0. Take care of business. And that's exactly what they did. And this is a game where, as much as you can say Michigan won, Michigan State beat itself. As much as we talk about Michigan State's defense being god-awful over the last 2 years, it was bad last year. It's gotten worse this year. Just from the seeing eye test alone, Michigan State's defense held their own for the most part on Saturday evening against the University of Michigan. That's really saying something, considering the firepower of this Michigan offense, considering the weapons that they have, considering the talent and the way they've been playing on the offensive side of the ball all season long. Michigan State's defense held up. The offense looked like they had early promise, but then a bunch of questionable play calls. So, as much as the University of Michigan defeated Michigan State defeated itself. Neither team was particularly impressive in this victory, but that's the case in some of these rivalry games. It's about a war of attrition. It's about that back and forth. It's about who throws the hardest punch at the hardest time and knocks out their opponent. And that's what Michigan did. They had an early deficit, 7-3 against Michigan State. They came back. They didn't let that get them down. They scored. They got back on the board. They took a healthy lead going into the half and then had the ball to start the second half. And they didn't let Michigan State get a lick of momentum going in the second half, or at least when they did, they made sure that they let Michigan State play right into their follies and lose control of that momentum and ultimately lose control of the game. Another point I want to make is on Michigan and some of the things that I had said about them previously or thought about them previously going into this year. Number one, J.J. McCarthy was the right decision at quarterback for Jim Harbaugh and company. Earlier on in the year, before the season, I was talking to Michael Spath, who's a former sports commentator now, a professor at the University of Michigan, teaching at the University of Michigan, who had about whether or not J.J. McCarthy or Cade McNamara was the right decision at quarterback. My take was the following. If you want to play for the future, you put J.J. McCarthy in there, you give him the keys, you make him the sole driver at the quarterback position. If you want to compete for a Big Ten and for a national championship with poise and with experience right now, you go with Cade McNamara. I was thoroughly wrong. You look at J.J. McCarthy in that game. He had pressure on him. He had to make some plays when plays collapsed because of this Michigan State defensive front, and he made those plays. He was patient. He was poised. He was unfazed, and he made big plays, and he set his guys up to be in the best position to win a football game. J.J. McCarthy was by far the right decision at the quarterback position. And in terms of their running backs, we know here in West Bloomfield, where we originate our broadcast, how good of a player Donovan Edwards is. But let's talk about Blake Corum, too. Blake Corum was excellent in that game, as he's been all season long. He is an absolute brute, low center of gravity, able to move this defensive line forward, even against a formidable front like you had in Michigan State. And it was an impressive game for Blake Corum. And lastly, on the University of Michigan side, Jim Harbaugh has got this right. As much as he went under scrutiny in his first several years at the helm because of all the promise that was there, his mostly being treated like a messiah by the Michigan faithful because he was a Michigan man, because he did have success at the college level coaching at Stanford, at the NFL level coaching in San Francisco. They were expecting that to be a quick turnaround following a couple of really quite unsuccessful coaching tenures from Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke following the retirement of Lloyd Carr. And that patience worked out for them. While a couple of years ago, people were calling for Jim Harbaugh to be relieved of his duties, certainly he had some temptation after last season to move on to the NFL after righting the ship at the University of Michigan. Maybe it's my time to get out of here before things go maybe wrong again, and I start having people calling for my head a second time. But they stuck to it. They let that program develop. They let Jim Harbaugh put in place that culture, that system, and get the University of Michigan, their branding, but also their style of football back to what the University of Michigan is, and it's working out for them. Now we got to move on to the incident in the tunnel, because that's the biggest story here, is what happened after the game. Unfortunately, has become a way bigger story than the 29-7 football game we saw at Michigan Stadium on Saturday night. After the game, there was an incident where a player on the University of Michigan was skipping toward the tunnel as Michigan State's players were leaving the field, and as most of the team for Michigan was celebrating their win and taking the Paul Bunyan Trophy over to the student section and the band. As a result, what ended up happening was a scuffle in the tunnel, which is not something unfamiliar in the last few weeks at Michigan Stadium, in which there was quite surprising video of several Michigan State students beating up a Michigan player without his helmet on in the tunnel that was eventually broken up. The player did escape out of there, and the players that were culprits moved on. That video certainly spread very quickly. We saw a video from a Michigan State commentator, Matt Charbonneau, on Twitter, as well as other journalists too. They got video of this incident, and it was a quick response, both from the University of Michigan, from their athletic director, Ward Manuel, their head coach, Jim Harbaugh, making comments on this, as well as from Mel Tucker, Alan Holler, the athletic director at Michigan State, as well as President Samuel Stanley, issuing an apology to Michigan President Santa Ono following that incident. Mel Tucker did make a statement on Sunday night, officially suspending 4 players involved in the incident, saying that Michigan State's football core values include integrity, discipline, unselfishness, toughness, and accountability. And after reviewing the electronic evidence, those videos and other accounts of what happened in the tunnel, they suspended Tank Brown, Kari Crump, Angelo Gross, and Zion Young effective immediately. And those suspensions will be indefinite pending a full investigation and cooperation between Michigan State football, Michigan State Police, Michigan State University Police, University of Michigan Police, and other law enforcement, campus leadership from both universities and the Big Ten Conference to evaluate what happened at Michigan Stadium. And there's something to be said here about losing with class. I don't care what happens. If the guy's skipping into your locker room, setting himself up to antagonize you and antagonize your team and kick you while you're down, that's a rivalry. That's what happens in a rivalry. But you got to be able to, keep your cool. And even beyond that, if you look at that video, you see Michigan State University players beating up a Michigan player, and some of the guys are just going toward the locker room, kind of walking by and not thinking twice about it. Those leaders got to step up. And if nothing else, if they're not going to go get involved in the scuffle and try to pull people out of, maybe fear that they're going to end up getting implicated in it, or that they're going to end up becoming part of the scuffle themselves, to speak up, to do a better job of stepping in and saying, hey, this is not what we do. This is not okay. I don't care what this guy said. Let him be a jerk. Let him talk trash. Let him say what we will. We're going to take that back next year into East Lansing and let us do the talking. Let us do the response. Let us hit back on the football field, not in the tunnel. Secondly, the tunnel is not the problem. You hear so much about that lately after a scuffle the previous week between Penn State players and the University of Michigan players, with rumors that Penn State players were throwing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Head coach James Franklin calling for changes at Michigan Stadium because of that incident, because of past incidents with Ohio State in 2021, now Michigan State this weekend. But by and large, there's been no problems in there. What really needs to happen is a better job being done by facility staff at the University of Michigan, by law enforcement, by security for both of these teams, to separate these two teams in the tunnel. That's the biggest factor here. That's the solution. The tunnel itself has by and large not been a problem. And if we're contributing all of this to a tunnel at Michigan Stadium and not players who chose to beat up on another player, that's a huge problem. Therein lies the problem. And this is why I'm happy with the response from Michigan State University, and certainly from head coach Mel Tucker, because this is a moment where you're at a crossroads and you've got to make a decision. How is our program going to respond to this? How are we going to make it clear to the guys on this team, to the community, to our opponents, and to college football that this is not what Michigan State football is all about? Suspending those players is the right decision. Now we got to look into it and get the full story from all angles and make final decisions on this. But in terms of what happened on the football field, Michigan State's not looking good. That being said, I think there's something to be said about what's happened in Michigan with Jim Harbaugh in just a moment, and a lesson to be taken there about patience. Because while Mel Tucker has not had great results other than last season, in his first 3 years at Michigan State University, he has recruited excellently. There is a swath of young talent, both already on that team and coming into that team. The branding has been vastly improved, brought into the 21st century. NIL becoming a huge factor and is continuing to be a huge factor at Michigan State. So patience is needed to let these guys develop and to get into really a full slate of Mel Tucker players at Michigan State before we judge where this football team is and whether or not Tuck coming is going to be a running gag or was the proper warning from the Michigan State faithful. Let's give it a little bit of time. Let's give it another year or two to really settle itself in before we start calling for Mel Tucker's head. That being said, when you exceed expectations, you change the expectations. And when you see the same results week in, week out, season in and season out, a bad defense, a bad secondary a year ago that's arguably worse this season, and nothing's changed, coaching staff-wise, trying different personnel, you're going to get those frustrations from the fan base. Plenty of more stories from Saturday's game. We got to move on. Unfortunately, we don't have a full full hour to do just sports here on the Megacast. We do have to move on. But again, congratulations to the University of Michigan. 29-7 victory on Saturday against Michigan State, and plenty to be discussed and will continue to be discussed through several different outlets on this matter, certainly on what happened in the tunnel, but also on the big game on Saturday in Michigan, taking back the Paul Bunyan Trophy for the first time in 3 years. We'll take a break on the Megacast. We'll go from competition on the gridiron to competition in politics. We'll talk about the upcoming election just a little bit over a week away from Election Day. And we'll talk about what to expect on Election Day in terms of, and what to also expect in terms of when you might see your results with Lisa Brown, the Oakland County Clerk, coming up next on the Megacast.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
I'm feeling good.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
This November, honor the many people who offer their lives for our freedom at the 2022 Heroes Appreciation Breakfast. Organizations, charities, and local residents are invited to celebrate the men and women that ensure our safety and security. Hear from guest speakers, live performances, and presentations from veterans, officers, and more. Save the date, November 8th, 9 to 10:30 a.m. at the new West Bloomfield Middle School. Call 248-451-1900 to register.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program, find us on demand, and find more information about where we air locally in your local area as well as online by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. We're just a little bit over a week away from Election Day proper on Tuesday, November 8th. And joining us now to talk about this upcoming election and some of the information you might need to know as you prepare to go to the polls and prepare to receive those unofficial results afterward is Oakland County Clerk and Register of Deeds, Lisa Brown. Lisa, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So there's a interesting story that came out early this morning from the Detroit Free Press that the Secretary of State's office has said that they're estimating this year's unofficial results will come somewhere within 24 hours of polls closing on Election Day. Now, typically in the past, we have seen almost immediately after the polls have closed that these results start coming in, or these projections from the polls start coming in, and by the end of the night or early into the next morning, we're seeing election results. So what does the Secretary of State's office and certainly local clerks and county clerks believe to be the issue here that would delay results in 2022 upwards of 24 hours after polls close on Election Day?
Well, I'm guessing she's saying statewide. In Oakland County, it's never taken us, so at least as long as I've been here, it hasn't taken us that long. We've never needed 24 hours to post results. So, perhaps statewide. I will say other counties cannot modem the results. Only 11 of us still can because of the equipment that we have that's federally certified. The other two vendors did not have federal certification for their 4G modems. So it will take longer to get those other counties' results in because they're either driving them in or some other way of getting the results to the county.
One of the reasons behind this expected delay from the Secretary of State's office report was because of absentee ballot voting and the increase in that since 2018 when a ballot initiative was positively voted by the electorate to allow no reason to absentee voting. Certainly it had a bigger impact in the 2020 election during the pandemic, and it continues to be something that more and more people are taking the opportunity to have their voices heard by way of absentee voting. And so in terms of collecting those votes and then eventually tabulating those votes, what slows down the process from absentee ballots versus those that go to the polls?
Well, the checking in when they first are returned to the county clerk's office. So let me first say, if you haven't returned your absentee ballot yet, please do it as soon as possible. And, you can either walk it into your local clerk's office, or if they have a drop box, it needs to be the municipality that you live in, that drop box, not the one on the grocery store or near your office. So when an absentee ballot is returned, the first thing that's done by the local clerk's office, the city or township clerk's office, is checking that ballot in, checking that signature for verification, make sure it matches the signature that's on file. There's all these steps that they go through before, it's even really accepted. And then on Election Day, it's even just the unfolding because they're folded up in the envelope, but all the processes that we go through to ensure the privacy of the vote, to ensure that that outer envelope is separated properly by one person, but then it's unfolded by another. Your ballot is then taken out and unfolded by another person, so they don't know whose ballot that was. There's a lot of people voting absentee, and it takes long to tabulate those ballots. So.
More information can be found locally from Oakland County on the election this cycle at oakgov.com/clerkrod, oakgov.com/clerkrod for more information. And there's many different ways that Oakland County assists in local elections here in municipalities in Oakland County. Can you take us through some of the different ways that you assist, that your office assists local municipalities in performing their duties on and after election day, and how Oakland County is also involved in that next step after these local elections take process before these results then move on to the state level for certification.
Sure. So in 2020, a new law came into effect that allows county clerks and city and township clerks to contract with one another for tabulation of absentee ballots. And we were the first county to offer that. We are the only county to do it for multiple communities. We'll be tabulating for 18 of our communities this November. And just so people know, we tabulate the absentee ballots that those communities get up until 4 p.m. Monday, the day before the election. So that's why, again, return your absentee ballot as soon as possible. But because anything that comes in after 4 p.m., that has to be tabulated by our local clerks. They cannot have their own absentee voting counting board. Those ballots will be taken out to the precinct. So if you're voting in your precinct and you see some people walk in and they're feeding a bunch of ballots into the tabulator, that's not fraud. They're the absentee ballots that came in after 4 p.m. on Monday to your local clerk's office and have to be tabulated in the precinct. So with that, precinct results will be a little delayed because for those communities, because our local clerks have to wait until 8 p.m., check the drop boxes, everything else at 8 p.m., make sure there's no ballots in there. If there are ballots that come in at 7:59, those still have to be checked in. Just as if it's returned today, right? The signature match, all those steps still have to be taken. And then it has to be driven out to the precinct. So precinct results will be a little delayed. But again, I don't think it'll be 24 hours in Oakland County. But and then after the election, so the next day, the canvass begins, and that is open to the public to come and observe. The Board of Canvassers is made up of 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans that are chosen by the Board of Commissioners. And in the canvass, we go through every single precinct and make sure things balance, that the number of voters matches the number of ballots that were tabulated. And we have over 500 precincts in Oakland County, so it takes a while for us to get through all of that, but it's a really important process. And once it's all done, then we certify and send it on to the state.
And that's the difference between those unofficial results that you get usually on election night or shortly after, including on Oakland County's website at oakgov.com/clerk-ROD.
Yeah.
And also that you see often reported by local news outlets. That's the difference between unofficial when they come in and official after they've been certified.
Right. And with write-in candidates. So, we have some certified write-in candidates for this election. And initially, it'll just say unassigned write-ins. And that takes time for us to go through. So those will be the slowest results, I will say, because we have to go through and see, are they certified candidates? And then can whatever somebody wrote in that space, does it, do you know who they're trying to vote for, right? And let me say, Tyler, if you write yourself in for governor, I'm sorry, but you're not actually getting a vote for governor because you're not a certified candidate. So that would be in the unassigned write-ins. It would stay in that column. But as we go through the canvassing process and we do assign those write-in votes to certified candidates, then their names will be populated, and then we'll be able to see how many votes they actually got.
Again, more information can be found on your local elections here in Oakland County at oakgov.com/clerk-ROD. And Lisa, in other parts of the nation, we've seen, particularly as it pertains to absentee ballot delivery boxes or drop boxes, better yet, in places like Arizona, there's been some reports of intimidation or people standing guard, certainly concerns about similar tactics being used at precincts following the controversy after the 2020 presidential election. Between your office, the county sheriff, as well as local municipalities, what is being done in Oakland County to ensure that intimidation doesn't occur at the polls, doesn't occur at absentee ballot drop-off boxes across the county, and that our elections locally are being secured both in terms of the processes, but also in terms of preventing illegal forms of intimidation that have been seen throughout the country?
Yeah, I'm grateful that we've never really had any major problems in Oakland County, and I would assume that that's how things will be on this election day as well. That everyone will be respectful, and challengers are allowed, but they're not allowed to intimidate a voter. We shared a list of election day crimes, misdemeanors and felonies with our law enforcement and our local clerks, and asking our local clerks to share that with the folks that they train for election day. We've shared it with the folks that we train on for election day. Just so everybody knows, we did have a candidate, I think it was in the late spring, who encouraged people that if they didn't like what they saw at the polls to unplug the tabulator. And while somebody might say, okay, so you just plug it back in, it's got a battery, what's the big deal? It is a felony. So, I would hope that people have more common sense than to take that advice and try and disrupt the election. And again, if you have a question, ask somebody, right? That's why I wanted to say about people bringing in absentee ballots into the precincts. It's not fraud. If you don't know what it is, it's going to look suspect, right? Like, oh, somebody's stuffing the ballot box. It's not what they're doing, right? These are certified ballots that are being fed into the tabulator as they should be by people from the clerk's office or election day workers. So
it's very
open.
Yeah, and these are very open processes, and your local clerk's certainly going to be welcome to have your questions be answered. And so you have any of that you need cleared up. Same thing goes for your local county clerks as well. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
More information at oakgov.com/clerk-ROD. That is going to do it for this Monday edition of the Megacast. Thank you to all of our guests for joining us, and thank you for tuning in. More information, civiccentertv.com/megacast, and we'll return very soon with a new episode.